Okay, welcome. You're in the battleground right now with the War Room. I want to welcome everybody. It is Thursday, 17 March, year of our Lord 2022. It's St. Patty's Day, of course, here. Although I'm nothing but a stupid Mick, we work today, okay? We'll party after November 8th when we have a massive victory. Big show today. I've got two of our best. I got Steve Cortes. I got Todd Bensman, because we got a lot of problems that we got to talk about. What's happening at the border, how big the Hispanic vote's going to be, all that. Steve Cortes, thank you so much. I know your days are very busy. Really appreciate you carving out both starting the day with us and coming on the new show to talk about Battleground. We got a cold open we're going to play for you when we're ready, but I really want to thank you coming on. I'm about to bring Steve. I want to ask you before I bring a gentleman on about the precinct strategy, and we're going to go to Colorado, which, as you know, we feel is a battleground state. And with Tina Peters and the Secretary of State issue out there, it's going to be huge. I want to ask you about this participatory. You and I talk about inclusive nationalism a lot, but in populism, it's participatory populism. We just had in the last show in War and Pandemic, we finished with Keisha King, one of the Moms for America, this great group. She's the executive director, about the legislation down in Florida, about the schools, the indoctrination going on about gender and sexual identity at, kids in kindergarten. It's how important Cortes, because you and I look at the big picture sometime in the math, how important is it for folks to have their shoulder to the wheel and make sure whatever your specialty is, whether it's a school board, whether it's election official, whether it's becoming a precinct strategy, whatever it is, that you've got to participate. The only way we run the tables is participation. Steve Cortes.
Steve, it's the absolute key. And by the way, thank you. This is my first time on your new show that I'm so glad you're doing. It is so crucial towards saving this country. Also, by the way, congratulations on your Richmond Spiders, your hometown team, with a big upset in the NCAA tournament, the first big upset today. Fantastic for them. But listen, as you said, we're not
hold on. My card's still looking good. That's what the Spiders. The Spiders came with a big upset.
And you've got your alum Virginia Tech looking strong, hasn't played yet. But listen, we can't just watch March Madness. We can't just celebrate St. Patrick's Day because we have a country to save. To your point, I'm so glad you're not ignoring Colorado. I do believe it is a swing state, a winnable state. Full of the energy industry, full of Hispanics. It's a place where we can and must compete. Let me give you a concrete example of why this participation you're talking about is so important, and that is the Commonwealth of Virginia, which we're talking about, your home state. Virginia has been a reliably blue state, but it now has a governor, Glenn Youngkin, who ran on an incredibly America First agenda. So far, he is governing that way. I'll be honest, I had some worries about him as a candidate, but so far, he is very much governing as a populist, nationalist, right-wing governor of Virginia. Now, that victory, here's my point, that victory would not have happened, in my view, if it were not for the massive influx of volunteers, in the precinct strategy agenda, the precinct strategy plan taking hold in that state, largely because of your show, because of what the posse out there, the War Room posse out there did to make sure that there were eyes on the process and that there was not a cheat, that there was a clean vote in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we took a blue state. I hope that gives people optimism and confidence that we can do that all over America. Should we be worried? Absolutely. And should we be on guard? Of course, because we know what happened in 2020. But my point is, Virginia should be a rallying cry for us that we can do this in other swing states, or what have been assumed to be blue states that suddenly become swing states.
Look, Steve Cortes just hit it. Virginia shows you it's a fusion. It's a fusion of the national populists, the MAGA movement, the President Trump getting that massive vote out in these Trump territories, with suburban moms who might not agree with us on all topics, but see that their central focus, the education of their children, is this kind of poison that's being put into the school system. This is why we all came together. And you had people, remember we had, I think it was 90% participation of poll workers and poll watchers, right? Amen. People coming out. This is why it was so big, so huge. I want to go to Denver, Colorado. Anil, Mathai. Anil, you're part of the precinct strategy. Tell us what's going on, because Colorado is one of our big areas of focus in 22. We're not giving up on Colorado. We think there's House seats to win there. Obviously, the Secretary of State's huge. Walk us through your experience, sir, outside of Denver.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Bannon. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for standing for our country here. Also thank patriots like Dan Schultz and Steve Stern with Precinct Strategy. that's the best way to take the Republican Party back. I am now the new elected chairman of the new Congressional District 8 Republican Party. I've been a 2-term former county chairman of Adams County. And Mr. Bannon, in this district here right now in 2016, the district went 1.7% for President Donald Trump. So we are in a district that can win easily for the Republicans. With some hard work, we can do it. So I'm excited. The grassroots is turning out to more meetings in Adams County. Just for the executive committee meetings, there's more turnout from like average of 30 people last year to about 70. So people are upset. They're tired. They want a Republican Party that stands on the Constitution and the platform, and they're turning out. So we are moving in the right direction. We just had caucus a few days ago, and there's been more turnout related to the specific precincts. And so we're excited, and we can turn this state around, starting with our congressional district.
Anil, one of the questions I want to ask you, and I want to get Steve in here too. The Hispanic vote, it looks like for years the Republicans, we got to do amnesty, everything like that, but we're seeing a new shift as the border crisis and the invasion in the Rio Grande Valley. And I had a bunch of meetings this afternoon about the Rio Grande Valley. Here at the War Room, we're going to be rolling out a bunch of candidates and other material next week. In Colorado, obviously, the emerging Hispanic vote there is so critical. They're with us on so many topics. What are we doing in the precinct strategy? What are guys like you doing to make sure that we're inclusive and we get all the Hispanic vote that would naturally be with us, but we're doing outreach? What are we doing there?
Well, it's a great question. Mr. Bannon, just for clarification, it's Anil, Mathai, and in regards to Hispanic voters, my wife is of Puerto Rican descent. My parents are from India. We both were born in this great country in New York City. We're from the East Coast originally. The district of Congressional District 8 is approximately 39% Hispanic. And the values are the same as our platform. We are for family, for faith, for God, for freedom, for our Constitution. And most people of Hispanic descent are the same. There's no difference here. The Democratic Party has failed them year after year. So as they've done the same thing for the Black community. But our principles are right. If we give everyone an equal opportunity for their children to go to the best schools based on school choice and other opportunities, we can win that demographic. Again, how do we reach them? Churches are very conservative. Many Spanish-speaking churches are of the same mindset, but our Republican Party has never reached out to them. We are reaching out to different churches. We're reaching out to different conservative groups. We have a group here in Colorado called the Colorado Hispanic Republicans who are working actively. We actually have one of our gubernatorial candidates, Greg Lopez, who's actually of Mexican Hispanic descent. So we are reaching out and making sure we're doing it not by just race. That's not the way it should be. It's based on our Constitution and based on the shared values of all of us Americans.
Anil, do you mind, Steve, if I butt in here to ask a question of Anil?
No. You jump in, brother. That's
Anil, let me ask you this, because by the way, I love that you're of Asian descent and you're married to a Puerto Rican. That is so America, right? I mean, it really is. It's wonderful. Part of this country. This country is so.
Hold it. The buried lead is they're from New York City. That's even
and
better.
From New York,
out
and working
west
on our side and working on America First. All of it is great, but we have to make sure that everybody knows that the America First movement. We are not anti-immigrant, right? We are very pro-immigration, done properly, done legally, done for the benefit of existing American citizens, whether native-born or legally naturalized. We are wholly against illegal migration. But I wanted to ask you, because one of the commonalities, talking about your family and you and your wife, one of the commonalities of both of those communities, Hispanics and Asian Americans, is entrepreneurialism. Statistically, both of those communities are far more entrepreneurial than the general American population. And I think Donald Trump proved that he was an amazing president, that the America First agenda of populist nationalist economic policies was fantastic for entrepreneurs. We see the exact opposite right now under Joe Biden. This is an economy which rewards very few people, but the people who are rewarded tend to be the executives of multinational corporations. The big boys are doing very well, but mom and pop operations and entrepreneurs are really struggling. Do you think that is part of what's going to make you successful in Colorado, what's going to make us successful all over the country in terms of getting Asian Americans and Hispanic Americans who didn't traditionally vote Republican to come our way?
Oh, Steve, it's a great question. First of all, we all have dignity in God's eyes. Each one of us is created equal in his image. We have value. regardless of the race. But, we want to lift people up. Our platform, our Constitution. This is the greatest country on earth. I've been to 63 countries. I love my heritage of India. I've been there many times. But this is the greatest country. Every time I land back in this country, I'm so proud to see that flag. And so our values of lifting individuals, giving everyone, letting people have the opportunity to work hard and become the dream and success that God has created them is important. So entrepreneurial spirit, helping people across the board, that is all part of the American dream. And the American dream is alive and active. What the Democrats have done, because I grew up in Philadelphia, is they've destroyed cities by race. They have destroyed people by economic classes. And it's time to stand up and fight there. The Republicans need a steel spine and continue to fight on our platform and our Constitution. If I was the Republican Party in the context of doing a national commercial, I would just videotape Camden, New Jersey, Detroit, Michigan, all of these inner cities, and just play it for 30 seconds. I'm telling you, you will win all Republican votes, because what the Democrats do is destroy. What the Republicans do, according to our principles, our conservative principles, is to build people up. We need to do this, and we need to stand for this, and we need to have a steel spine. Stop being cowards to the Democrats. They have nothing. They have destroyed us, and they're destroying us right now. It's time to stand and fight these communists right now.
Phil, let me, and Steve, you can jump back in here. Colorado used to be a red state, and a hat tip to the Democrats. They targeted Colorado, and they had a very well thought through strategy. In fact, Colorado was really the meeting place. And they said, I think it was back at the turn of the century, of how they could take over the entire country by a grassroots effort. Walk us through quickly what the Democrats did in Colorado to flip it, and how are you guys going to compete against that? Because they can't lose Colorado. That's kind of that's a red line for them. They've taken a stand there because this was the laboratory where they came up with this formula to take over the whole country, sir.
Yeah, the Democrats, kudos to them. They have a thing called the blueprints, blueprint strategy. Basically, they infiltrated local government. That's where the most powerful politics is our school boards and our city councils. You win that, then you develop onto the state-related legislative races like the House and the Senate here in Colorado. So they've been infiltrated within school systems, local races, they set up different groups, political groups, organizations. So they have a blueprint here that has worked successfully to permeate within society. And the Republicans keep looking at like national elections or not local, but statewide, and think that they're going to win. And the Democrats spanked us clean. And they have full control. But we can win by focusing on the local races, building the statewide races, getting people who are principled to win. We need to stand on our platform. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Again, turnout is growing. People are upset, but they need to stay in it for the long run. Again, that precinctstrategy.com is great. That's how you take control of the Republican Party, is to get involved, become a PCP. Here in Colorado, we call it a precinct committee person. And when you get involved, you take control of your local county parties and you start to influence upward. And that's the best way to do it. Again, there's a couple of ways here to win our party back to the right direction, and also to win the voters back by having people they trust. A lot of people do not trust Republicans, but they will trust patriot fighters, Republicans who stand on our values and our Constitution. And we can win this, and we will win this.
Steve, you got anything else for everyone before we punch out?
Sure. Anil, let me ask you just on the economy, because we got a brand new poll out from The Economist and YouGov, and that is not a right-wing publication, right? So we know they're not trying to skew poll results to look good for us in the America First movement. But in that new poll, the percentage of people who say that the economy is, quote, excellent, 5%. That's it. I mean, just de minimis. It almost doesn't matter, right? You can get 5% of people to say almost anything in polling.
They must be government workers, Steve.
Right. Well, yeah, true. They're probably all the D.C. metro area. That's a great point. But my question to you is, I think there's an enormous opening there, right? On the tangible things that matter to people's lives. Right now, people are struggling with inflation in this country, particularly working class people, but all people struggling right now with runaway inflation that we have not dealt with since the 1970s, since I was a child in this country. Young people have never dealt with it. It's a brand new phenomenon that is brought on by Joe Biden. Do you think that in Colorado, that is going to be a message that sells? And do you have the right solutions, the right candidates with the right solutions to solve the inflation quagmire that Joe Biden has put us into, that is resulting in an embarrassing 5% excellent ratio for the economy?
You can, Steve, here in Colorado and across the country, you can ask anybody, just go to the gas pump. It's out of control. The extra money that you have to pay, we should be drilling here, and we need to be fully independent like we were under President Trump. That is a message that will sell here and everywhere. Middle-class families are suffering right now, and they have to, deal with their pocketbooks, and it's getting smaller and smaller. That is a winning strategy here. That affects all people, all families, and we will continue to move forward with that. We do have some candidates who are principled, who are constitutional, who will reduce government so that the people will increase. And I think that is the message that's going to win here. But they need someone that they can trust. The voters need someone they can trust. And the Republicans here, as they stand on the Constitution and the platform truly and fight for them, I think the message will win, and we can turn Colorado around this year, especially with our Congressional District 8 that I'm the new chairman of.
Chairman, how do people, this story is so upbeat and so powerful. How can people get access to you? Is it a Facebook? Are you on a Getter or Twitter? Or how do people want to follow you? Because these are the stories we want to tell everybody, or have people tell their stories about how it's all coming together. So how do people track you?
Yeah, Mr. Bannon, I'm on Twitter as Anil, ANIL, 4 Freedom, Anil for Freedom. I'm also on Facebook, Anil.Mathai, Mathai. First name's Anil. So just, connect with me. But I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the other patriots. I think it's extremely important. You are giving this message of freedom and our Constitution to our country. You're giving people hope. I support Tina Peters, and I'm keep talking about that story. I support Sharona Bishop. It's important the nation finds out exactly what's happening here. And it's not just the Democrats that are doing this. This indictment against Tina Peters is coming from a Republican district attorney. What the state party did here against her, and basically they broke pre-primary neutrality. I understand bylaws very well. Again, I ran a county twice, and now I'm a congressional district. So please continue to let people know what's happening. We're going to win based on our Constitution and a steel spine and our conservative platform. And I thank you both and everyone who's a patriot for your great direction of helping us move successfully as a great nation, like President Trump said.
Chairman Anil, thank you very much. It's Cortes and I have the easy job. We just tee it up, and you guys go yard on it. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Cortes, that's not the future. That's the present. This is how we're going to win 100 seats. We're going to pick up 100 seats if we keep our shoulder to the wheel. Steve Cortes.
No, listen, it's invigorating to see people like Anil who are clearly motivated. They are persuasive. I can't even imagine probably how influential he is in his community. And you're exactly right, Steve. Look, you and I from 40,000 feet need to arm people with information, right? That's crucial. We need to make sure that they're not fooled by corporate media narrative, that they're not fooled by big business, that they're not fooled by, frankly, by a lot of establishment Republicans. Let's be very honest, right? We spent most of this morning's show, you and I, criticizing, I think very properly so, establishment Republicans who are trying to drag us into a war 5,000 miles from home that doesn't involve an American interest. So we need to arm people with the information and frankly, make sure that they can educate themselves, lead them to the sources that are reliable. Your show, of course, War Room is certainly one of them. And then motivate them to be activists, right? To go out and actually take action. And again, I want to reiterate Virginia, because I want to use that as a template and as a rally cry for America First activists out there. Virginia is not a state that was thought to be winnable, certainly not with an America First Republican candidate, right? We were told by the supposed experts that the only Republican that could win in Virginia is some sort of watered down corporatist. Well, Glenn Youngkin ran as an America First populist nationalist. He won, and he won actually rather easily. Now, two reasons there, as you mentioned. The first is that people were activated. They were activated because of the overreach of the Democrats in places like Loudoun County, where they are quite frankly just abusing children, abusing them with curriculum that is nothing but indoctrination, abusing them with onerous and unscientific vaccine mandates that just punish children, which in my view are child abuse. So we had that propellant for a lot of suburban moms, a lot of people who may not have been instinctively with us. And then the second aspect, and this is so crucial for this fall, for November, is that we had eyes on the process. We had, as you mentioned, 90% plus of those volunteer positions were filled and staffed with motivated patriots who said, not going to happen here, not going to have a November 3rd, 2020 redux in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we didn't. And I firmly believe that that is one of the key reasons. I think it's one of the two key reasons that Glenn Youngkin triumphed there. And by the way, not just Youngkin, an entire slate of America First statewide elected officials who, by the way, look a lot like America when you talk about inclusive nationalism. And listen, and we're never for quotas, of course not. But it is important that our movement, in terms of leadership, looks like America. Well, the Virginia state elected offices do look a heck of a lot like America, with people like Jason Minoris and Winsome Sears. And more importantly than how they look is the actions that they are already taking in Virginia. So I want to encourage people out there, the patriots out there, that if it can be done in Virginia, it can be done in other states that are probably easier pickings, that are a little bit lower hanging fruit than the Commonwealth of Virginia. I hope that motivates people, that this can be done this fall. So, be on guard. I get the cynicism. The cynicism is warranted, but don't wallow in the cynicism. Take action. Educate yourself, know the issues, volunteer, run for office, for local offices, whether it's the precinct captain or the local school board, whatever it is, run for something that your life can accommodate, that you can handle. Be an activist, be a force multiplier, be like Anil in Colorado. There are thousands, if not tens of thousands of him all over the country, and they're going to bring us to victory in November, where we elect not just Republican majorities, because we don't want just an R after their name, and send people like Maria Salazar, who's going to be a globalist corporatist. She's gotten a lot of attention, a lot of negative attention, deservedly so, since her disastrous appearance on Tucker last night. So not people like Maria Salazar, but instead America First Republicans, who will then set the stage for a 2024 presidential triumph. I hope it's by President Trump, but if it's not Trump, another America First presidential candidate with a solidly America First Congress to save this country.
I got to say, from the morning show, our comments on Jesse Waters and Tucker, Jesse coming to having that center of gravity in the Fox, in the Fox evening, was the number 2 story of Mediaite all day. So he definitely got some attention. You were going to come on. We're going to do your cold open about South Florida and about the Hispanics. I spent all afternoon, Steve, meeting with people about what's happening in the Rio Grande Valley. We just had Anil talking about Colorado. You came forward. And Anil said, hey, the Democrats took this over with a playbook which was village by village, school board by school board. This participatory populism is our reaction to that. But you see all over, because the Biden administration has flipped over the Trump, all the face cards, that you see moms focus. You see, precinct strategy focus. You see people become election officials. But was Neil said, hey, it's patriotism. These are naturally conservative. People are naturally conservative about social structures and about family. You have preached from day one an economic program that is also centered around the American family. Give me a couple of minutes to talk about that. We have to merge in the economics of nationalist economics with this natural conservative, sir? Steve Cortes.
Yes, they are totally intertwined. And this is for Hispanics. This is for just Americans. This is for citizens of our great country. If we combine economic populist nationalism, if we combine that with cultural conservatism, what we have is a winning formula that is working in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, that's working in Miami-Dade County, a place that used to be reliably very, very blue, used to be in the Sunshine State, that the Democrats would romp in Miami-Dade and in Broward County, and then the Republicans would have to try to make up the difference in the rest of the state, and that, therein lied the victory or the balance one way or the other. Well, that dynamic is changing, and it's changing again because, yes, the Democrats are doing us favors, right, because of their radicalism, because of their overreach, whether it's the way they're abusing kids or whether it's the inflation explosion that has been caused by Joe Biden. And no one in this audience is going to fall for that ridiculous ruse. I saw Nancy Pelosi tried it again today. She said something, Putin's price hikes. There's not Putin's price hikes. Inflation has been exploding in this country since the moment Joe Biden took office, with a lot of help from Nancy, by the way, and unfortunately, collaborationist Republicans. So the Democrats are doing us favors politically, not doing the country any favors, but doing us as political operatives of the America First movement. They're doing doing us favors because of their disastrous agenda. But also, we don't want to only be the party of don't or the movement of no. We also want to be attractive, and we are. And how are we attractive? By a muscular outreach of a nationalism that takes pride in this country and that appeals to the natural patriotism that is systemic and really just part of these communities, and then with specific policy agendas. So, for instance, let me be specific. What are the ways to tackle inflation right now? This runaway inflation in this country. We have double-digit producer price index. That's wholesale inflation. We have 7.9% consumer price inflation. Now, I think actual real inflation is far higher than that. But even if we take the government at its word, that is still a 40-year high. How do we tackle that? Well, one thing is we have to stop the exorbitant borrowing and spending. The only way to do that is to elect some people with backbone, because the Republicans in the Senate right now, even though they have nearly a majority, 50 is mathematically the biggest minority you can have, which means you have enormous power. The Republicans, the 50 Republicans, are unable to wield their power. They're in the dead of night. They're perfectly willing to hustle and grind to get $14 billion over to Ukraine, but they are not willing to go to the mat for America to secure our border rather than a border 4,000, 5,000 miles away. So part of it is we need to elect the right people this fall, and then also with the right policies, which are, it's time to get real about the budget process. Are we take a break? Sure.
Steve, can you just hang over a second? We'll take a short break. Todd Bensman is going to join us. Breaking news out of New Hampshire: Sununu will not agree to the redistricting that gives control of one seat to the Republicans. Another disaster from a rhino. We'll get into all of next. Take a short break. The great Steve Cortes and of course Todd Bensman, CS, is going to join us in a moment.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Patriots, Miami-Dade County in South Florida used to be a dependable Democratic stronghold in the Sunshine State, but no more. Let's take a look at the data. Going back to 2016, Hillary Clinton won Miami-Dade by a massive 30%, but by 2020, Joe Biden did win it by only 7%, a shrinkage of 23% overall. Now let's look at the gubernatorial race. In 2018, DeSantis lost Miami-Dade by 21 points. But right now, brand new polling as presented by the Miami Herald shows that DeSantis is leading by 7% in Miami-Dade County for an astounding 4-year swing of 28 percentage points. Now, what accounts for this? I think a lot of it is the terrific leadership of DeSantis over the state of Florida, taking on big corporations and using actual reason and science rather than narrative to guide that state through COVID. Another huge reason is Hispanics. Hispanics moving toward the America First movement, toward Trump, toward DeSantis. Right now in Miami-Dade, majority of Hispanics there disapprove of Joe Biden. This news is all no bueno for the Democrats and great for America First.
Okay, welcome back. We got the great Steve Cortes. We also have Todd Bensman. Steve, because the Hispanic community in South Florida is different than the Rio Grande Valley, different than South Texas, different than Ben Berquam's out in Pinal County, different than California. These are all people look at it as a monolith. It's not a monolith. Sure. Tell us, you got some more interesting statistics about South Florida, sir.
Yeah, about South Florida and other places. So I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way, because look, there's roughly 60 million Americans of Hispanic descent in this country, so it is hardly a monolith, of course. There are people in the southwestern United States who have been here for many, many generations, and then there are Dominicans in Queens who got here yesterday, literally, right? So, and they might share a surname, they might share a language, but other than that, they don't share a whole lot. However, what does unite the majority of Hispanics is that they're working class people. And I want to point this out, Steve. Almost everything that I say politically, poll-wise, policy-wise, almost everything I say about Hispanics, I could just as easily say about working class whites, about working class blacks, just about working class citizens of this country. But it is fascinating because Hispanics have culturally previously been inclined to vote Democratic. And believe me, when I say, it's sort of tongue in cheek in that chalk talk, when I say this is no bueno for the Democrats, I am very much understating the case. Believe me, they are pulling their hair out right now, Steve. Those people, our counterparts, who do the kinds of things that you and I did with campaigns on the Democratic side, the fact that they are losing Miami-Dade right now, and that's from the Miami Herald, that's not some right-wing poll, that they're losing it by 7 points against DeSantis. I mean, you might as well fold up shop. I mean, close it up. It's done if those kinds of trends hold there. Now, of course, we're going to keep hustling all the way through the tape. We're not going to do that. But my point is, this is a free fall right now. Let me give you some other statistics, though, to show you that this is not just a Cuban phenomenon. It's not just South Florida, because I do hear that a lot from corporate media. They'll say, oh, well, those crazy Cubans, they're so anti-communist. You know, they vote differently. Let's talk about Texas. And this is statewide, and this is from Civics polling in Texas. Believe it or not, at his inauguration, Joe Biden actually had a ton of support from Texas Hispanics. According to Civics, he was plus 30 on the favorable unfavorable ratio, plus 30 among Texas Hispanics. He is right now, a lot like Miami-Dade, he is 7 percentage points underwater as of today. A 37% move in 14 months. And you know, Steve, you know politics and polling well enough. You just don't see those kinds of moves that quickly. I mean, this is monumental. It's a tectonic shift for Biden to go from plus 30 to minus 7 statewide in Texas. And why? I think, you know, again, culture and economy, I think, are the main two reasons. Hispanics have been effectively made political orphans by a Democratic Party that is so radical that it has no place for patriotic and largely Christian Hispanics, whether they're Catholic or evangelical. They poll far more pro-life than do other communities in America. The Democratic Party of the 2020s has no place for Hispanics like that. So I think it's economy and culture. And on the economy side, just to build on what I said earlier about the economist overall, not Hispanics, but just overall in America, only 5% of Americans say that this economy is excellent. Among Hispanics, that same poll from Economist and YouGov asked Hispanics, are you better off now than you were when Joe Biden took office? The numbers saying better off, 9%. 91% not. 9% say they are, of Hispanics nationwide, say they are better off economically under Joe Biden. So listen, we have a chance to run the table in historic ways. What we already did as a movement from 2016 to 2020, let's face it, was, and I'm not saying this to puff our chest because we have way more work to do, but what we've already done is pretty amazing. And I believe that we're in the first inning, maybe second inning, of what's going to be a game of political dominance for our movement for decades to come.
Here's where I want to just hang with me, Steve. This is why I wanted to get Bensman in to follow this. The reason for this 30s, I think one of the biggest reasons for the 37%, and by the way, in a year, that is an historic implosion. I believe why? Because the concurrent with that was the invasion of the southern border by Joe Biden's policies, by his policies. Who had to bear the brunt of that invasion, right? The Hispanic Americans in South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley. Todd Bensman, you got worse news for us. Of all the reality checks you gave us, now Axios, like this is not War Room, it's not Breitbart, it's not CIS. Axios is saying that you sent it right after the show this morning, a mass, after you broke the news that people got to start worrying about this Title 42 being lifted. There's a mass migration event about to happen. Todd Bensman, tell us what's going on.
That's right. Well, as I mentioned this morning and on other times on your show, that they're going to end Title 42 probably at the end of this month. Title 42 is that pushback of more than 1 million people over the last year back into Mexico for the pandemic, where they can't apply for asylum. Now, it looks like the DHS and the Biden administration has been on a war footing, a major war footing, preparing for 170,000 at least migrants who will rush over the border. There's already 25,000 waiting on the other side for them to lift Title 42 in the next couple of weeks. DHS, the Biden administration's DHS has set up something called a Southwest Border Mass Irregular Migration Contingency Plan. They are planning to bring thousands of federal workers from all over the country down to the border to contend with this thing that they expect to have happen. And that's not even including the 70,000 that I have already told you about that are about to be released by the Mexicans in southern Mexico. And also, I'm looking at I have a DHS friend who shared with me a call for volunteers for a DHS volunteer force. I'm looking at it right now at my phone. where they're begging and pleading for DHS people to put their names in the hat so that when they have to trigger the Army to deal with this mass migration crisis, there'll be some people around. And by the way, one of the things that they're asking for are Spanish speakers.
Okay, hang on. If you could bring Cortes up in the split screen with keep Todd up there. You guys do such a great job. Okay, my head is blowing up right now. I've got nothing but Republicans on TV all day long. Give me the big sob and the crocodile tears. I understand what's happening in Ukraine's terrible. But as I said time and time and time again, the eastern border dispute of Ukraine is not in the vital national security interest of the United States. It's horrible. And we pray to God every night, don't send more weapons in, get to the negotiating table. Let's get a deal and stop the killing. But what is in our national security interest is the southern border of our country, and these Hispanic Americans in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas are the brunt of this. Todd, you got to go back for a second and explain this from the top. Title 42 was because of the pandemic. It was on there, and it was a regulation put in that you couldn't just take asylum because of the CCP, PLA, COVID-19. When that comes off, they're playing for, if the invasion in our country, we just had 156,000 or 158,000, you told me last month. You're saying there's prepping for a mass migration, a even bigger invasion once this is lifted. And the Biden administration is kind of slapping this together with, hey, can we have some Spanish speaking volunteers? Hey, or a couple of guys over here. What are we going to do? Where's the emergency legislation on this? Where's McCarthy and McConnell on this? This is the vital national security interest of our country. Todd Bensman, walk us through this, and then Cortes, you jump in because my head is blowing up. This is outrageous, and to me, this is treason. You got an invasion coming on, and this is treason because this is our country. This is not, 10,000 miles away on the eastern Russian-speaking border of Ukraine. Todd Bensman.
The issue is that we have the mass migration crisis to date. What we have to date is because this is just the exemption to Title 42. Right. Family units and unaccompanied minors, they exempted those from Title 42. So this mass numbers that we're letting into the country are just the family units. The single adults are the ones that are being kicked back. There are way more of them than there ever were of family units. Those are probably 2/3 of the total amount of apprehensions that we've had, and they're getting pushed back, denied asylum. What will happen when they lift 42 is that all of those people will then rush the border and claim asylum, and we'll have no choice but let all of them through. If you do the math, Steve, if we're looking at 160,000 with Title 42 in place, and they're saying another 175,000. They didn't give a time on that, but and then a 70,000 more down in Mexico. We could have a month like April and May of 400 and 500,000 potentially. I don't want to, I can't say for sure what it's going to be, but potentially we could be seeing numbers like that. And then I think we're not going to be caring so much about Ukraine because it's just going to be, I can't even imagine. I'm going down. I can tell you, I have plans to go down there the day they lift Title 42.
And, Steve, I think Todd brings up a really important point here, too. What we've done so far is we really enticed, unfortunately, the trafficking of children because we said that if you're a family unit, you can come across. Now, we know many of these are not actually families. And if you talk to Customs and Border Patrol, they tell us they literally see children being used as effectively entry tickets into the United States, the same child being recycled several times through because of what the cartels are doing. So there is nothing compassionate about a porous border, okay? And the Democrats and the media will try to guilt us into acquiescing with the ruse that this is somehow merciful or that this is somehow compassionate. It is the opposite of compassion because when America surrendered its sovereignty over the border region, when Joe Biden decided that we were no longer going to exercise any authority over that area, there's never just a vacuum of power, right? That vacuum is filled very, very quickly, and it was filled by the cartels, by literally some of the worst people on planet Earth. They would give ISIS a run for their money in terms of depravity the Mexican cartels. And by the way, their activities are increasingly, not surprisingly, crossing into the United States. They're no longer just staying on the Mexican side. But my point is, we have created incentive structures, actually, that encourage, unfortunately, and incentivize the abuse and misuse of children. And Todd's exactly right. Once we take away that protection for America of Title 42, we might very well see just a human tsunami of illegal trespassers into this country. And why? Because incentives matter. Because Joe Biden, as a candidate, raised his hand along with every other Democratic candidate and said, of course, illegal migrants are going to get U.S. government-funded health care in the United States. So, Steve, a lot of people in Central America, a lot of guys, and it's mostly young guys, who live in tough places that aren't economically great, may not be that safe, they're making a rational decision. They're saying, wait a second. Joe Biden told me I show up, I'm going to be allowed to stay, I'm going to be given housing and stipends, I'm going to get U.S. health care, which I certainly can't get in El Salvador. I'm going. People respond to incentives. And it's not just Joe Biden. I want to point that out, too. You know, Maria Salazar, again, who was on Tucker Carlson last night, I think put in an embarrassing performance where she lied to the country on national television and said she was not pro-amnesty. I put her legislation from her website up on my social media. The audience can go and read it. But let me quote you just the key line in her, what she calls the redemption program. This is a quote. It also opens up eligibility for existing pathways to citizenship. So it is clearly, again, we can't only blame the Dems. The establishment Republicans are also creating the incentives because we're saying, number one, not only should you come here, you'll be allowed to stay, you're going to be treated well, courtesy of the American taxpayer, but eventually there's a very good chance that you're going to get citizenship. And so I don't begrudge, quite honestly, a lot of these migrants making, these economic migrants making a very rational decision.
They're totally rational people.
Yeah.
If that was the thing, it certainly would come up. Hang over a second, Todd. I got to issue. This is Axios reporting this. Axios reporting is because of the lifting of Title 42, the restrictions about the COVID virus, that there's preparations for a mass migration event. And Todd's Bensman saying, hey, let me extrapolate out. I can't guarantee, but you could potentially have months where you have 400,000 or 500,000. And those months are like April or May this year before the desert heats up. Remember, at Normandy, there were only 156,000 troops from Canada, the United States, and Great Britain. Patton's Third Army was 300,000. You could have a mass migration event in 1 month. A bigger invasion hit our southern border than Patton's army hit the Germans in France in World War II. But here's the thing I got to get to. All night long on all the TVs and McCarthy and McConnell and Ben Sass and Tom Cotton, they got guns and planes and tanks and support and for the families, all this. Give me what they're asking for volunteers. Please tell me what you just described is the efforts that they're making on the southern border for 400,000 or 500,000 people potentially coming across Todd Bensman.
Well, they're describing bringing in jets and planes and buses to be able to move migrants from concentration areas to less concentrated so they can fly them to detention centers elsewhere on the border. They're talking about bringing in federal employees from all over the country down there to not to stop them. That's the thing is that the effort is going to be to encourage their smooth transition into the country so that they can apply for asylum. And that's really what the problem is here. And this kind of puts some things together for me because Mayorkas just went to Costa Rica and Mexico and did a tour of government meetings down there like earlier this week. And I remember kind of reading that he was going down there going, now, why would he go to Costa Rica? That's interesting. Now, I think what it is that they're probably going to try to get those governments south of Mexico to start blocking migrants at their borders. It's really the only hope because remember, we're having 40% of everybody reaching our border are not from Central America or South America even, or Mexico rather. They're from South America and the rest of the world. And they're coming through this long migrant trail. You know, the Haitians and the Cubans and all those different migrants are coming from all over the world. And the Panamanians and the Costa Ricans bus them from their southern borders to their northern borders, and make Mexico try to trap them at their borders. By the time you get to Mexico, it's too late, man. You have to block them at Panama and Costa Rica and Colombia too. I'm hoping Mayorkas realizes this and is down there cutting deals to shut that flow down. That there's no reporting on this at all.
Todd, I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
Cortes, we got a couple of minutes here. What give us your overall? Give us a minute or two of your thinking of this before I go back to Todd.
Let me just give you one other aspect here that I think is important. This is totally offensive. It's not only wrong for America, for our economic and national security, it's also wrong and totally offensive to legal immigrants who went through an arduous process to come into this country the right way. Todd mentioned Colombia. That's where my father came from. My father came here on a temporary visa way back in the 1950s, ran out, didn't get an extension, had to leave, went back to Colombia, wanted to stay, had met my mother, wanted to stay in America. Wasn't allowed. He left. He did the right thing. He said the day he was allowed back, he was back and he became an American citizen. But my point is, it's a difficult process. It's expensive. It's time consuming to do it the right way. In addition to being bad for American citizens, it's also just incredibly unjust and offensive to legal immigrants who did this the right way to now construct a system where you can literally cheat the system, hop the line, and become a citizen on your terms rather than by the rules of the United States. Just another aspect to this injustice.
Steve Cortes, give your social media. People got to be following you nonstop in your Substack.
Please find me on the Getter. I'm just at Steve. And then over on Twitter, while I'm there, I'm still at Cortes, Steve Cortes with an S.
Todd Bensman, how do people get to you? You've done extraordinary work, and I got to tell you, to talk about this before it happened, then Axios picked it up. This is going to be a massive story. You're ahead of it. Yeah, how do people find you throughout the day, sir? I
mean, they're telling Border Patrol agents in roll call for the last 2 weeks to get ready. So, and it was leaking out. T. Bensman at Getter. Follow me on T. Bensman Getter, and my book is America's Covert Border War, about the jihadis that are coming through too.
Unbelievable. Todd, we got to get tonight. We're going to get organized. This is the story. It's not the eastern border of Ukraine. It's the southern border of the United States of America. It's being invaded, and the number's going to blow you away. We'll get a little more organized tomorrow morning, but this is the story. That signal. Ukraine is noise. I hate to say it. Ukraine is noise. Okay. Thank you very much. Todd Bensman, Steve Cortes, amazing. We're going to be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning when you're going to be in the war room. Join us then. It's going to be, I can guarantee you, it will be hot.